What's up, Mindsetters? It is a Wednesday afternoon. You're with Looney and Cheryl today. How are you doing, Cheryl?
Well, and you, Looney?
I'm good, thanks. What are we doing for Life Sciences today?
Hi, everybody. We're looking at the last part of our ecological series. Yes.
All right. You heard it, Mindsetters. We're doing the ecology today, and it's all about ecological systems. So I'm excited to learn because, as I always say, I never did life sciences. So it's like my lesson and your lesson. So we're both learning at the same time. Don't forget to hit us up on Twitter @LearnExtra. Don't forget to comment and post to me and talk to me on our Facebook page on facebook.com/LearnExtra. I do post all the notes from there, but if you want to check out everything else that we offer, like our videos, our schedules, and if you want to get more information, past exam papers and all of that, you can go on learnextra.co.za/live. So with all that said, I'll take you straight back to Cheryl.
Thank you, Looney. Welcome, grade 10s. We're going to be doing the last section, all right, of our ecology series. And we've gone through all the biomes. We've gone through all the abiotic and the biotic factors. Today is a very visual, all right, lesson. Lots of the things you're going to see are all diagram related. Very much pictures, pictures, pictures. So I will be explaining them all to you. What we're going to be looking at, first of all, the energy flow in ecosystems. We're going to be looking at food chains and food webs. I always call it the easy section because I always find that this is a section that sometimes is just self-explanatory, right? And you can it's easy marks if you, at the end of the year when you do your exams. And then we're looking at ecological pyramids. Okay, listen to the terminology again, very important. And then we're going to be looking at nutrient cycles. We're going to look at the oxygen, the nitrogen, the carbon, and the water cycle. And as a little bow at the end, we're going to be looking at ecotourism, right? Why our country is such a popular tourist attraction. Okay, so I'm going to start off first with energy flow. Right, now when it comes to energy, you've noticed, if you're paying attention in the beginning, we are going to be looking at energy flow and then nutrient cycles. When it comes to energy, very, very important. I want you to have a look at the diagram, no matter which way or which diagram you look at, right? Energy cannot, right? If we look at a cycle is continuous. We start off with something, we go around and we need to return it. Energy is very different because we cannot return the energy to the most important thing, all right, the most important energy maker, and that is going to be the sun. Nothing over here is going to return the energy back to the sun. So let's have a look at our flow of energy, all right? When we look at our flow of energy, our sun, all right, that's going to be our major, and we remember photosynthesis, when produces, and the flow of energy is from the sun to the green plants. Okay, so what's going to happen? The sun has got solar energy and it's going to be converted to chemical potential energy in my plant. Now, in my plant, my producers, if you can remember from last week, that is where the energy, we use the word food, is available. Now, if you have a look at the arrows, we're concentrating on the red ones for now. So what happens is the following. The sun, all right, passes on its energy, and plants are the only organisms that are able to take that and to trap that energy, all right, as chemical potential energy or as what we call food. They trap it in that glucose molecule, store it as starch. How do we pass that energy on? Quite simple. We eat it. Okay? So what is going to happen? You will see here, plants, all right, are going to be eaten by animals. Last week we looked at words like herbivores, all right? Our consumers, herbivores, carnivores, omnivores, they are all heterotrophic. They cannot make their own food, so they need to eat, all right? And that's exactly what happens. The plants produce the food is there, and our consumers eat the food. So we pass the energy from the plant onto the consumers. But each time that we pass the energy on, we lose some of the energy, all right? Because living organisms, all right, undergo cellular respiration. And cellular respiration is where the organism uses that glucose, and what happens is, it, as a waste product, we release heat. Heat is released. So what happens is the plant makes the food, all right? It uses a little bit, and then, say, for example, my locust comes and eats, all right, the leaf. But it cannot get the full amount because the plant has used a bit, all right? Then a frog comes and eats my locust, but the locust, the energy that the locust has, right, and will pass on to the frog is still even less. Because what happens? The locust is jumping around, it's flying. What does it release? It releases heat, all right? It releases energy in the form of heat. So as we go through, all right, each of our trophic levels, energy is passed on from one trophic level to the next. And at the end, all right, when all of our organisms die and bacteria decomposes all the living things, it cannot return the energy to the sun. It's not an energy cycle, but an energy flow. So what happens? The decomposers over here, all right, what do? They break down all these living organisms, right, and they return the nutrients to the soil. So when the nutrients are back into the soil is nice and fertile, and then plants can grow. And where does it start again? The sun then, all right, is able to be trapped by the plants, and the plants make the energy. Very important. That is the flow of energy through our ecosystem. Okay? From my producers to my consumers, and then the living things all die, and they are broken down by decomposers, the nutrients into the soil, so that my plants can then grow much better. Now, you already started me talking about things like herbivores and carnivores, etc. When we refer to the energy, and we're going to look at our pyramids, and we're going to look at food chains, we refer to those different feeding levels as trophic levels, okay? Each of those different feeding levels, if you have a look there, each link in a food chain is known as a trophic level. And one thing you're going to see very often today is that we show it by means of a pyramid. So when we talk about, all right, plants, they are producers, okay? Plants are our producers. Atop of those, our trophic levels are herbivores, carnivores, and omnivores, all right? And then, obviously, our decomposers. So we have producers, we have consumers, and then we have decomposers. Each of those has a specific level on, all right, or in the ecosystem. And now particularly what we're going to look at is food chains, all right? Food chains. What a food chain is, and this is a diagram I'm sure you're going to become very familiar with, okay? The food chain here shows, if I can simplify it, what eats what. But it's not as simple as that, okay? First of all, the sun, very important. The sun has a very important role because what does it have to do? The plants need to photosynthesize to trap the energy. Because a food chain is a transfer of energy from one trophic level to the next, all right? So if we're looking at energy here, my energy comes down to the grass, all right? And then what happens? The grasshopper feeds on the grass. Energy flow, okay? The frog feeds on the grasshopper. Transfer of energy. A snake eats my frog. Again, remember why we eat energy. And my eagle eats my snake. At each time, energy is lost, all right? Remember, energy is going to be lost. And when the energy is lost, It's lost by processes, natural processes, respiration. Animals lose it by feces and urine, the losing of heat. So in a food chain shows you the transfer of energy from one organism to the other. When I was looking for pictures, I came across a lot of pictures that the arrows were the other way. Okay, that is incorrect. That is telling you maybe who gets eaten by what. But when we're looking at a food chain, the arrow must go in the direction in which energy is passed. All right, from one trophic level to the next. And our producers are usually the base of our system. Okay? Very important, a food chain, one single food chain. Now, we know that food chains do not exist, all right, by themselves. So not only a snake is going to go and eat, all right, the frog. We're going to have lots of animals competing, all right, for different varieties of food. That makes a very healthy ecosystem where we've got a variety. As I say to my class, if you go into the shop and the only thing you're looking for a chocolate, and the only chocolate that you can choose, all right, is one little chomp, that is not variety, all right? You need a large variety of things. Okay, can we have a break quickly?
Okay, cool.
All right, can you just, I just need to, yeah.
Okay. Mindset is let's take a very short break. We will be back straight after this, so don't go anywhere. Welcome back, Mindsetters. If you've just joined us, you're with Looney and Cheryl, and we're talking the ecosystem and all of that stuff, the ecology. Like I always say, I never did life sciences, so I'm learning with you guys. Hope you're still enjoying the lesson, so I won't waste any more time. I'll take it straight back to Cheryl.
Thank you so much, Looney. Okay, welcome. We were looking at food webs, and we said, if we looked at our food chains, all right, remember, let me just quickly go back, recap. We said that a food chain shows the flow of energy through an ecosystem. So we're looking at what eats what, yes, but remember, why do we eat? We eat so that we can obtain energy. And this is a very simple example. And if we put all of our food chains together, we then create a food web. All right, a food web. If you have a look here, as I said, there's variety, there's competition. Here's my producer, my plant. There's a worm, all right, two different kinds of worms. There's a grasshopper, there's a beetle. All of those, all right, are going to feed on my plant. So if we look here, this would be, if we have a writing over here, okay, that would be my consumer, my producer, sorry, there we go. Anything that eats, primary consumer, primary consumer, primary consumer, primary consumer. Primary consumers then get eaten by secondary consumer, secondary consumer, all right, secondary consumer. And then we can even go as far as to have a tertiary or a quaternary, all right, consumer. So here, they might have different places in different food chains, but this is what we call variety, okay? Variety, the insects have a lot of variety in which to choose from, and so do all the organisms. As soon as you start to take one away, all right, what happens if we were to take the locusts away? Then what will have to happen here? The birds are then going to, all right, need to eat other things because their choice has been taken away. And that puts pressure, all right, on the other organisms in your food web. So always remember it, because a question that I always love to ask is what happens if we take one away, all right? What's going to start to happen? You're going to have one organism feeding on another, all right, and then their numbers might decline, and that might cause another organism not to have any food. So always have a look at your arrows again. It shows the flow of energy, where energy is moved from one trophic level to the next. Okay, talking about our trophic levels. Very often, we show our relationships, right, in nature by making use of a pyramid, okay? It's just one of the ways in which we can bring data across showing ecological relationships. we are going to look at 3 pyramids. Pyramid of numbers, pyramid of biomass, and a pyramid of energy. Okay? As I said to you again, what have we got? The triangle, producers, then my consumers, and if necessary, my decomposers. Okay, let's start off with the pyramid of numbers. Very, very simple. Very often, just the heading of the pyramid is going to tell us exactly what it entails. Okay, have a look at this pyramid, okay? And I haven't put anything in it, and I want you simply, what the pyramid of number is counting the number of individuals. So if you were to have a look at this, all right, this pyramid, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, maybe 12 trees, okay? How many giraffe? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 giraffe, 1 lion. It's a balanced ecosystem, all right? When it comes to your ecosystems, you always want to have more food available than things eating it, okay? So my pyramid, my base of my pyramid, all right, most of the time I'm going to show you there is a bit of a but. Usually we must have more plants so that the animals can feed in them. If we've got lots and lots of animals feeding on a small amount of plants, those plants are going to quickly disappear. And those animals are not going to have food, and they might either move or they might die. And the things feeding on them and the things feeding on them. So it's actually a bit of a chain reaction there. So if we have a look at my pyramid of numbers, usually, but not always, what do I have? A large base. I want lots of producers, right? So my consumers have a lot more food. And also, if you're going to have 10 lion and 2 little bookies, all right, springboks running around, what's going to happen? Those lions are going to kill those springboks quick, and then there's no food. And what are the lions then going to feed on? Right? Then they have to go elsewhere. And that causes a little bit of chaos, so to speak. Things need to be in order. But as I said to you, there is a bit of a but. Okay, have a look at the but. Sometimes, there we go, right? Look what's happened over here. One tree can support a whole lot of things. So all of a sudden, my pyramid is upside down. Remember, we're talking about numbers. One tree can support a lot of aphids, right? Aphids are little things that eat all the leaves and the little green things on the plant. Not very nice. Ladybirds eat the aphids, all right? And here, parasites are living inside the tree. So all of a sudden, your numbers, your pyramid is upside down, but your pyramid is actually still balanced because a tree is really, really large and it can support, all right, a whole lot of things. It's the same as a dog if it has a few ticks on it, right? All of a sudden, the numbers, all of a sudden, one dog, lots of ticks, upside down, but still, all right, there's enough food for the ticks on the poor dog. Okay, the next one we're going to look at is a pyramid of biomass. Now, biomass, quite simply, is the total mass of organisms in that particular level. Now, if I were to put my arm over here and you would block it, it could be any of the pyramids. Have a look there. What do we have? Producers, then consumers, okay? But when it comes to biomass, we must be specific on how we show it. And we always use kilograms, okay? So whenever we draw a pyramid, no matter what we want to show, okay? So we have producers here, consumers, decomposers. What are we going to find? Maybe here, 500 kilograms. There's going to be less, all right? 200 kilograms. We have a weight measurement, all right? Mass, right? We're talking about how much something weighs, all right? And if we're talking about a specific weight, all right, sorry, I have spelled that wrong. If we're talking about a specific weight, all right, we need to indicate that is my unit of measurement. And what is it showing me? at each trophic level, my biomass decreases. All right? That's what it's showing here. I start off with 1,000. I end off at the top of my food chain with 1. So at each level, my biomass decreases. Okay, the final one is the pyramid of energy. Right, the pyramid of energy. Sorry. Okay. The energy one is missing. Okay. The energy one seems to have disappeared. Murphy at its best.
I'll
Okay.
post it on Facebook.
It's in the notes, hey?
Yes.
All right, okay. The pyramid of energy, not a problem. We can just draw it over here. So what do? We take this and we just cross out the kilograms. All right, nice and easy, not a problem. It's the same concept. And we replace energy with kilojoules. All right, that's our unit of measurement, kilojoules. So here's 1,000 kilojoules, kilojoules, right, and kilojoules. And what did we say right at the beginning when we started with energy flow? Okay, one trophic level to the next. What is always lost? Energy. So your energy pyramid will always be, all right, like that. The producers will always have the widest base because they will always have the most energy. Your consumers, all right, will then go from that and become narrow. So what does my pyramid of energy show me? It shows me the energy available, all right, at each of the trophic levels. And what else does it show me? It shows me that energy is lost, all right, from one trophic level to the next. Okay, now let's go on to our cycles. These are quite tricky. Some of the cycles are a little bit more difficult than others, but when we look at it, the one thing I always want you to look at is the arrows. The arrows are always going to play such an important part. Okay, when it comes to oxygen, carbon, and nitrogen and water, they are constant. All right, there's 78% nitrogen in the atmosphere, there's 21% oxygen, there's 0.04% of carbon dioxide. And what we have to constantly do when we look at the cycles, all right, is to keep that balance all of the time. So you've got it, we use it, and we must put it back. All right, as I said to you, a cycle, it is continuous. So we start, something happens, we return back to where we started from. All of these nutrients are essential, all right, for all living organisms. They need them. You guys, when you did biochemistry, all right, I'm sure you looked at the inorganic and the organic nutrients. What did all living things need? They needed water. What did they need nitrogen for? To build proteins. Carbon is one of the base of all our organic compounds, all right? And oxygen, okay. All living things need oxygen to live. So we need to make sure that that is continuously used and then replaced. Okay, we're going to start off with the oxygen one. The oxygen one is quite simple. And you guys, I'm going to be using diagrams here, all right? That's the easiest way to understand. If you've got a picture in your head, and what we're going to do is to follow the arrows. Okay, oxygen is quite simple. There's two processes that are going to ensure that oxygen is kept constant. First of all right, photosynthesis. Photosynthesis, as we look now, what is it? The plants, they take in carbon dioxide. That's already going on to our carbon cycle. They are going to take in carbon dioxide. What do they make? At the end of photosynthesis, plants produce oxygen. Not only our food, but our oxygen. All living things, all right, there we go. See what happens? All living things take in oxygen. What do they need oxygen for? Cellular respiration. Okay, so they take in the cells, they use that oxygen together with the glucose, the food, all right, and what do they release? They release energy in the form of heat. They also release a waste product called carbon dioxide. Look at my arrows. They make carbon dioxide. Where does carbon dioxide go? It needs to be used in the trees for photosynthesis. What do the trees do? Photosynthesis. What do I do? Oopsie. All right. I then make oxygen. Right? Make oxygen. Use the oxygen, produce carbon dioxide. It's a cycle. It is continuous. My arrow has gone from one process to the other. It is a continuous cycle. Right. That's a nice, easy one. Okay. The carbon cycle looks a little bit complicated, but it isn't. As I said to you, let's start off with carbon dioxide. Here we go. Carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. And as I said to you, what do we need? We've got carbon dioxide. We need to use it, and then we need to bring it back. We are looking at a cycle. Now, if you were to look at all these arrows here, most of the arrows show us how we get carbon dioxide back into the atmosphere. All right, if we have a look here, most of the arrows is showing us how it gets back. So let's start of how we actually use it. And it's the same as in the process of the oxygen cycle. Most importantly, carbon dioxide is used by the plants for photosynthesis. All right? Plants take in the carbon dioxide and they trap that carbon in food. Okay? It's trapped in glucose, it's trapped in starch, proteins, lipids. All right? It's all trapped in the food then. So now what happens is, all right, let's have a look of now how we get it back. So the plants trap it, and how do we get it back to the atmosphere? A variety of ways. Have a look at the first arrow here. All right? 1, all living things are going to die. When they die, they decompose. And when they decompose, they can release carbon dioxide into the atmosphere because it's the bacteria. All right? Some plants and animals, however, especially obviously the plants, if plants become fossilized, they become fossil fuels. And fossil fuels can be burnt. All right? We can burn them. And when we burn them, that is carbon dioxide being released. That is combustion. And when we burn something, what do? We return it to the atmosphere. As I said to you, living things respire, cellular respiration, carbon dioxide back into the atmosphere, all right? And everything goes back to where we started, and we're at point 1 again. The plants can take the carbon dioxide in, combustion, burning, cellular respiration returns the carbon dioxide back to the atmosphere. We're ready for a break again, Nasia?
Yes.
Time is at 0.
You can take a break. Mindsetters, we are going to take a break. Just quickly, a quick shout out to Lerato Sibote, Salbi Mahumani, Apio Makatini, Daniel Kanyinji, and Nzako Makubela. Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in and for enjoying the show. We will be back straight after this. Welcome back, Mindsetters, from that very short break. I hope you guys are nice and refreshed and you're enjoying the show, but I can see on Facebook most of you are enjoying it. You understand everything that Cheryl is teaching you. Just to tell you about your favorite teachers and everything else about your teachers, if you reckon you have the best teacher in the world and you can't live without your teacher is just so amazing, your teacher has impacted your life and has changed your life in some sort of way, then you can enter them in the Stars in Education Awards. I will post all the information we have on our Facebook page. The link is quite long, it's like www.ed. So I'll post it on our Facebook page, guys, so make sure you enter your teachers. Tell me what's special about your teacher, what your teacher has done to change your life, whether it's in school or personally. Just tell me about your teachers and I'll send a special shout out to your teachers if you post on our wall. So make sure that you do that, guys. Stars in Education Awards, please. Yes, thank you. Cheryl.
That's such a nice idea, Looney. Guys, go and vote for your teachers, all right? Sometimes we don't always get the praise that is necessary. And if you think that there's a teacher out there who's made a difference in your life, go and vote for it. And if they don't win, you can even tell them it's the best thing that anybody can do for their teacher. All right, let's carry on. Okay, we finished with the carbon cycle. Remember, we're doing cycles. We start off with, we use it, we must return it. In carbon dioxide, again, quite easy. We use it for photosynthesis. It gets trapped in food. All right, plants and animals eat it. They then, all right, respire, releasing carbon dioxide back into the atmosphere, or they die, releasing carbon dioxide back into the atmosphere. Plants, all right, can form fossil fuels, that is your coal and your oil, etc. And when we burn those, they during combustion, what do we release? Carbon dioxide back into the atmosphere for the plants then to be able to photosynthesize. So lots of things return the carbon back into the atmosphere. So do you see how important plants are? Right, deforestation, really bad. We need to take that carbon dioxide and we need to change it into oxygen. As soon as we start cutting down all our trees, you can exactly see where the global warming is coming from. Okay, our next, this might look, the nitrogen cycle is a bit scary. Everybody always looks at it and, ooh, it looks very difficult. Okay, as I said to you, let's start to follow our arrows. Now you need to remember what I said to you in the beginning. Nitrogen is 78% of the Earth's, of the atmosphere, the gas. Yet, we do not have the ability, all right, when we breathe it in, to use it. So when you look at this diagram, the only way that living organisms, especially, all right, consumers, can get that nitrogen, go back to our biochemistry section. Nitrogen is essential for the making of proteins. All right, go back to your biochem. Proteins, nitrogen is found in proteins. Okay, and the only way that we can get that is if we eat it. Okay, so how are we going to get this nitrogen from the atmosphere to something that we are going to eat? All right, and they might be the smallest little organisms. All right, living organisms, but they are essential, and that is going to be bacteria. Let's follow me on the diagram. Let's follow the arrows. Okay. I think I'm going to let me try and use the blue. I think it might stick out a bit differently. Let's start off here. Here, remember what I said? Nitrogen is in the atmosphere. Okay? Now, where does that nitrogen go? The nitrogen, all right, goes into the soil. And over here, bacteria, all right? Listen to the word, nitrogen-fixing bacteria. Nitrogen-fixing bacteria. Nitrogen, all right, they take the nitrogen and they convert it. Okay, have a look at my arrows. Look here. Here's my bacteria. They can be free living in the soil, or very often you get what we call, they are found on leguminous plants. Leguminous plants, legumes, are plants that are, well, roots more like, that are in the soil as pods. And when we talk about legumes, it's your beans and your peas, etc. All right, you know your beans, ugh, don't like them, stick to the top of my mouth. Okay, so now you've got the bacteria that makes takes the nitrogen in. All right. Now have a look what it does. Through a process, it converts that nitrogen to ammonia. Most important, that ammonia changes to, I know it's a whole lot of words, nitrites, but here's the key. This is the one we want, all right, nitrates. Once it's in the form of nitrates, that is how the plants absorb it. All right, if the nitrates are dissolved in the soil water and the plants are able to absorb the nitrates, and they now into the plant, all right, and the plant can store it as a protein. Those of you who've had avocado pear before, if you've had peanuts, okay, if you've had beans and peas, those are vegetables rich in protein. Okay, but even if you don't like your vegetables, what are you going to find? Okay, who's going to come and eat that little, here's all the little green plants over here. What's going to come eat it? The cow, the sheep, the pig. All right, and they're going to, that nitrates is actually, it's nitrogen now in the plant. And what do? They eat it, and now makes protein. Okay, so we now eat the sheep, the frog, we don't eat frogs, well some people do, all right? We eat the sheep, we eat the cow, all right? And what do we get? We eat the pig, and what do we get? We get the protein from that. So we get it by eating it, okay? That's what assimilation means. Assimilation means the plant takes it in, all right? And what happens to the plant? Look, there we go. Here's a little munchie chewing on the plant, okay? And once again, what do all living things do? All living things die, all right? And when they die, decompose, look what happens. Ammonia. What happens to ammonia? Gets converted to nitrites. Nitrites get converted to nitrates. So when things die, they actually fertilize the soil, and the plants can take them in again, and all the things can come feed on the plants, and that's how we keep it going. But if you've noticed, I haven't been able to link it to go back again. Now, when we talk about the bacteria, nitrogen-fixing bacteria takes the nitrogen and converts it to nitrates in the soil. All right, now we're looking at a cycle. I haven't yet linked my cycle to my nitrogen in the atmosphere. Okay, so now you've got bacteria that take the nitrates, and instead of, all right, it going back to the plants, they actually, all right, convert the nitrates back to nitrogen. I'm going to write, I don't know why it is there, all right, it's called denitrification, all right? So, and let me put on this side, nitrification. All right, so nitrification is when I take my nitrogen and I make it into nitrates so that all the organisms, plants, the producers and the consumers can use it. But I need to keep my balance. I need to get that nitrogen back into the atmosphere. All right, so what are we going to find? Here, nitrates can also be converted by denitrification, all right? Denitrifying, taking it out and putting it back into the atmosphere. So what do I have? There, all right? A denitrification, and there my cycle is complete. One other thing that, believe it or not, is lightning, all right? When lightning strikes the earth, it also stimulates the conversion of nitrogen to nitrates. So in a way, lightning can also be quite good for the, all right, for the soil. Okay, our last cycle. Our last cycle is the water cycle, all right? Again, water, very precious, needed. We need to use it, and we need to return it back again. So let's start off where it comes down. Okay, these are all the Asians. I always say everything ends in Asian here. Okay, we're going to start off with precipitation. Now, precipitation, let me go green, I think that's better. Precipitation means, all right, water in whatever form coming down to the earth. It can be rain, snow, hail, sleet, all right? It's rain in its different forms coming down to the earth. When it comes down to the earth, all right, a few things can happen. One thing is infiltration. We want the water to go into the earth, because over here, all right, we have groundwater, water that's stored, all right? Those of you who go out into, for example, the Kruger National Park, and you go out into the bushveld, I haven't seen anybody standing there with a hose pipe, all right, woo, watering this tree and giving the camel or whatever, the camels, giraffes, water. No, where do you think those plants get their water from? When it rains, it goes into the groundwater. There's storages underneath the earth, all right? And that is through infiltration. The water filters through, and we have this storage area. Those of you who have boreholes, all right, you use that process where you've drilled down to the underwater, the groundwater. Okay, what else happens is runoff. Not all of the water is going to go into the soil. You're going to see a lot of it runs back into the streams, all right? And the streams and the rivers eventually end up in oceans. But whenever we've got a water body, okay, what are we going to have? Evaporation. So we had precipitation, infiltration, runoff, okay? And now when the water is into all these bodies of water, we have evaporation. What happens to water? All right, the heat moves it up, and when the water, all right, condenses, condensation, so it's now in the form of water vapor, droplets, condensation. What will then happen? The clouds will form, and we will have precipitation once again. One thing also, plants. You've done it this year as well. Plants lose water in the form of water vapor from the aerial parts, and that is transpiration. Okay, so the water came down, all right, it went into, it rose up again, and what happened? Condensation occurred, clouds formed, and what do we have once again? Precipitation. Can you see? I have done the cycle. All right, it must be, where do I start? How do I use it? How does it come back? Always think along those lines. Okay, for the first time in a long time, all right, we've actually can start with a few questions. Looney, is there anything that you want to, before we start with ecotourism first?
You can carry on so long. I'll tell you now.
She's still busy fiddling away on her Facebook. Apparently I have to look for a signal. Okay, guys, we've now finished the ecological part. And one of the things, you're going to go on now to biodiversity and classification. The environment, our great biodiversity, right, makes us an awesome country, all right, for tourists to come visit. And that is ecotourism, all right? And ecotourism, quite simply, is that when tourists come to this country, all of the parties that are involved, the local people, all right, all the South Africans, all right, irrespective of, all right, who and what they are, should be able to benefit from the tourism one way or another. And that is what ecotourism is about, all right? Very simply put, if you have to look at the definition, it's responsible travel to natural areas where the environment is conserved and where the well-being of the local people, all right, is improved. I can't think of a more efficient way in which to do that, all right? Responsible travel, all right, to our natural areas, and then where the environment is conserved. I think if we were to highlight, all right, and I think that explains it all. All right, I get the nod from Lily. She gives me the nod. Apparently there was a signal. Yes.
So Tepo is asking a question based on the food chain section we were doing. So it's asking, what will happen if we didn't have producers? Tepo Mahlangu.
Oh, no. Tepo, no producers, all right? The whole, all of it would collapse, all right? You're going to start, when you start at the end of the year, when you look at the history, all right, of the earth, you're going to notice that one of the things that brought about a lot of change is if there wasn't, all right, if the producers weren't able to produce, if the sun was blocked, etc., and that caused most food chains to collapse, All right, they're the basis of all food chains. We can't make energy, all right? I wish I could go out into the sun, all right, and 2 seconds later, then I've had breakfast. I wouldn't be nice and round as I am now, all right? So producers, they're the only ones with chlorophyll, and that chlorophyll is the only thing that can take the energy and convert it to food.
Okay. And then another question from Lekuling Emmanuel. He's asking, does the word percolation mean infiltration?
All right. Percolation, you can use it the same as infiltration, right? I always find infiltration easier to, when I think of percolation, I do tend to think of coffee. I'm going to be quite honest with you. Is that all?
No.
Oh, she's still carrying on. Yeah?
Since while the animals we eat plants that contain protein, is it the reason why meat falls under the category of protein?
Yes. Okay. All right. Remember, meat, all right, has nitrogen in it.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
And then what Hello Tikane is asking, hello, can you explain the effect of deforestation on the carbon cycle?
Okay. All right. Let's quickly go back to the carbon cycle. Let me see. All right. There we go. Okay, let's take out trees. All right. So if we were to take out, let me use a different color here. Let's take out our trees. All right. What's going to happen? What is essential? Photosynthesis, all right, needs to make something. Oxygen. All right? Oxygen. Trees make oxygen. They also absorb carbon dioxide. Remember, carbon dioxide is a greenhouse gas. So trees are able to take this gas, all right, and convert it into oxygen. So what starts to happen if we start deforestation, all right? Fewer trees. What is happening to our carbon dioxide level? It's getting higher and higher. What is happening to our earth? It's getting warmer and warmer. And that, as you know, is going to have a lot of effects, all right? Breeding patterns on tides, etc. So if you deforestation, what are we doing? Lots more carbon dioxide, all right? We're not being able to, it's almost like plants are like a buffer. They're like the liver, all right, of the whole environment. They take it in. But then, what do we need? We need oxygen. Where do we get oxygen from? From plants.
Okay. Two more questions. Are all the cycles interconnected? This is from Trust Madembo. Are all those cycles interconnected, and what's the definition of a trophic level?
Okay. Are all the cycles interconnected? Yes, in a way they are. All right? Because if we have a look, what you would find, all right, all those gases, the one that's not so much connected would be the water cycle, all right? When it comes to the three gases of the atmosphere, the oxygen, the carbon, all right, and the nitrogen, yes, they all are, okay? But what you will notice, they all have similar things. For example, respiration. All living things respire, giving off carbon dioxide, which we saw we need carbon, all right? In the oxygen cycle, we needed it for photosynthesis. Again, all living things die, decompose. And when they decompose, all right, what do? They release the nutrients back into the soil. They release carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is necessary for the oxygen cycle. So yes, very much so. Water is a bit of it on its own, all right? Water doesn't have, right, it's not as much as the gases, obviously, because the gases are in the atmosphere and water a lot more on land.
Okay. And then from Daniel Kanyinji, he's asking, what happens if nutrient cycles are upset?
Okay. That is very important. When the nutrient cycle's upset, how do we upset the nutrient cycles, Daniel? All right. Think of things about pollution. What happens when we pollute? What about acid rain? Okay. When we pollute, there's all sulfur in the air. So when that sulfur comes with the water, what happens to the water? It's acid rain, okay? Falls onto plants and it's different in the soil. What else falls into water? Changes the pH of the water. Fish and etc. that need specific pHs to breed. Also, again, pollution. What happens with all these factories, right? Belching out all this carbon dioxide, all this carbon monoxide, all right? What else? The nitrogen, okay? When we use another way that we often use nitrogen is if we put fertilizer in the soil ourselves. But what also happens is that fertilizer, right, if we use too much, we can cause damage to the systems around us. think pollution, all right? Think water pollution, think air pollution, right? And see how it damages each of those cycles. Why are you laughing at me?
No, I'm looking at the questions. One more question,
Okay.
one more.
Woo.
The Kuleng Emmanuel is asking, what is the difference between chloroplast and chlorophyll?
Okay. What's the difference between chloroplast and chlorophyll? Chlorophyll, all right, is inside a chloroplast. So when you have the cell, you have the organelle, all right? That is the chloroplast. Remember, you would have had something that looks like this, all right, with all your little thylakoids. That whole thing is a chloroplast. Or let's go back again. That whole thing is a chloroplast. Inside there, all right, that is chlorophyll. All right, it's the ingredient that causes all the change. Are you done now, Lily?
Yes, I'm done.
Are you done? I think
And
we're done
unfortunately-
as well. Yay,
Yeah.
I thought I was going to get to a question.
So sorry. Mindsetters, we have run out of time. Thank you so much for joining us. And until next time, everything of the best. If you're writing exams and all of that, your sister, your brother is writing prelims and all of that, everything of the best to them. And I'll see you again very soon. So goodbye from us.